Hi guys, I am so sorry that I waited to start the broadcast today. Unfortunately, I am about a half an hour late, and I just got caught up in what I was doing. I'm preparing actually for next week's show, and I'm starting to deliver some ideas and some content about strategy and how strategy is going to work. Today we're talking about planning, and it's going to be really special. We got some jewels that I think we're going to drop in today's discussion. I'm hoping that we still have an audience. I realize that this is not being broadcasted live on Facebook right now, and so unfortunately, um, I'm going to have to remove it from the Facebook completely, and I don't have time to get into that and still get the program started. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to take this program now that we've got it going, and then once it's recorded and dropped, I have to go back and add it to Facebook, which I can do as a watch. I believe a Facebook watch. If anybody has any ideas on how to do that better, let me know. We're going to start today's show off with a wonderful little thing that I like to share with everybody. It's sort of a commercial break. More of a branding opportunity for me. So I just want to share that with you guys really quickly. Then we're going to get the party going. Okay, here we go. Okay, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Coffee, Tea, You and Me, our weekly program, our weekly show, where we help entrepreneurs, business leaders, sales professionals of all types learn the art, the science of networking, strategy, anything you're going to need to move yourself, your business forward. This is a love and a passion of mine that I've been sharing and contributing with for people for more than 20 years now. When I decided to become a coach, I just thought, I need to do something that's going to create opportunities for more people that I could physically touch. And so here's an opportunity to have the show go worldwide. If you are attending the show for the first time, watching and recording, whatever you want to do me a favor, hit that like button, share it with your friends. Let's make sure that everybody knows what we're doing for small businesses and how we're trying to contribute to the betterment of small businesses, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic. There's a lot of entrepreneurs out there who are feeling lonely. They're feeling like they really don't have any support. They're feeling like, all the things that they need to have that they depended on are no longer there. And I want you to recognize this. Every assumption that we have made in business has been turned upside down by the COVID-19 virus. And this means everything that businesses could do for communities, the jobs they could create, the innovative programs and policies they can put in place, everything that everybody promised or believed or funded is all up in the air. It's all being challenged right now by so many different things. So today's program is dedicated to planning. And we're going to talk about the 4 major steps to planning. We're going to talk about the original ideas and thoughts that humans have had involved with planning. We're going to talk about some solutions and some creative ideas that leaders can begin to think about when it comes to their planning so that they can put the right people on the team and put the right people on the field and have them have the right strategy to move forward, to move things forward. Next week, we're going to talk about execution. We're going to talk about how you get from planning, with your team to now executing whatever you want to do. And that's a humdinger. I can't wait to get to you. I'm so excited about it. I've just put some tweaks to the program. If for those of you who are interested in actually coming along with us and learning more, I'm going to drop the entire program of today's the whole training guide for today's program into the links that are going to be in the chat. And I'll later on put it back in the show notes as well so people can see that. You should be able to get to that information in a few clicks here as soon as I figure out how to get back to the show. There we go. All right, there we go. I'm still streaming. Okay, so I'm going to put that in the comment section right now so you can just go ahead and download the whole entire document. This is coming from my Google Drive, my share drive, and I always go back in and tweak and update these trainings. So if you got something, the planning guide for me later at some point in time in previous history, trust me, it's brand new. And there's been some changes made even as of today. And so if you are looking at an older document, just discard that. If you're coming up with one of the updated versions, then you're up to speed and up to date with some of the things that everything we have to share. I don't have the room or the time, the space to talk about that all in today's show. So I highly recommend you download it, put it on your own hard drive, read it in its entirety, and get the lessons learned. And promise me, if you have any feedback that you'd like to share, anything you'd like to say, anything you'd like to communicate, let's just throw it in the chat. I may even develop a whole entire group around this to discuss, so that we can keep this party going, keep this discussion going. I think it's so important. Planning is so important to everything that we do as entrepreneurs, everything that you'll need to do to get your business going and running, everything you need to do to get your business funded and have other people drop, belief in you and do all the things that you need to do. Okay, so let's talk about what I think the 4 key steps to planning are. And when you talk about these steps, there's 4 steps. And if you look at the document that I have in front of you on page 1, you're going to see that these steps, although they are steps, they're not linear, and they don't even have to be sequential. They just have to really, really be synergistic between one and the other. And you have to really, really get these steps down. So there's 4 key concepts that you need to make sure that you're involving in the planning process. If you don't involve this planning process, and if they don't have checks and balances each to each other, then I think you're going to have a lot of problems with creating a plan that people love, people enjoying, people that want to support it in whatever way, shape, or form that support may be given. You're going to have a hard time with it because you've left something out. Okay, so first thing, you have to have a tremendous belief in each other. Everybody who is a part of your team, whether they are a direct member of the team or an associate to the team or somebody who is a supporter to the team or anybody else that's you have to have a really strong belief in each other. And you should be doing things to prove that belief to one another. It's very, very important, because if you have a solid team that's doing the planning, the belief in each other you're going to be able to put that in the plan. And that's going to inspire others to believe in you as well, because belief is transferable. It's one of those things that I always teach my clients and my friends when it comes to understanding the laws of reciprocity and how it works. Belief is a transferable thing. If I believe in you first, then you'll believe in me a little bit second, and then I'll believe in you a little bit more, and back and forth, and we will continue to reciprocate all good things. It doesn't matter what good things are. The laws of reciprocity always exist. And you have to make sure that you're doing everything you can to transfer belief through and within each other as a team before you begin the planning process, during the planning process, and even after the planning process. That's thing 1. Thing 2, your sense of mission, right, has to be so developed mutually and shared. When you're a part of a planning process, or you find yourself on a team where you had nothing to do with the plan, the plan is not necessarily connected to the mission, and you can't see how it's connected to the mission because you didn't have a voice in its creation, or you didn't have a way of orientating yourself to it so that now you feel like you belong in this thing, then it's going to be a problem. You have to make sure that you develop a mutually shared mission, not a statement necessarily, but an understanding, a belief system, a view of how and when each person on that team enters the planning process. And if you don't understand that sense of mission, you're going to have that shared sense of mission, you're going to make it very difficult for yourselves. So leaders that take the time to check that, to create a methodology of which they will go back and go, okay, how do we know every member of this team is on board with the mission? What would they be doing? What would they be saying? What activities or actions might they be taking to indicate to us that they're truly understanding and accepting of the mission that we're trying to get to? Now, it's different. Mission is different than goals, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. But think about, especially when we get into execution, mission is critically important to any execution. If you try to execute something, or you try to move things forward and people don't believe in it, they don't have a sense for the values and the principles that make it work and drive it, they don't see themselves as a part of it, then they're not going to give their best to it. They're not going to bring their A game. They're not going to do all the things that they're needed to do to make the plan work, right? Number 2, in the planning process is you have to have a commitment. Oh, I'm sorry, number 3. You have to have a commitment to a planned action. You have to commit to action. And again, we're just talking about the planning process. If you can't commit to the plan, then it's going to be more difficult for you to commit to the execution. And you must commit to the plan first. So you commit to action to be a part of the planning process, commit to action to give everything you can to the planning process so that when it comes time for execution, you are in the plan. You and whatever contributions you make, and leaders have to make sure that every team member, whether they're introvert or extrovert or whatever personality type, doesn't get left out of the planning process, because you want them on that plan. So a lot of times people I hear I work with all the time are managers or directors, or there's some kind of supervisor, and they're just responsible to get this done, this done, this done. They got people to help them get it done, and they're managing to that expectation, but they're not paying attention to how people might want to do things and how things work best for every individual involved. And trust me, the more you try to streamline this and organize it in a way that just a few people know what's actually going on, everybody else is just kind of doing their piece or dialing in their piece, you're not going to get a really good, excited, energetic team that's working together and growing together and sharing with another in a way that makes any difference. So you're going to want to make sure that everybody is prepared for committed action. You need ways to measure that. You need ways to assess that. You need ways to create that. I love pledges and oaths and poetry and song and chants, or anything that makes the team rally, anything that makes a team excited to move the thing forward. Now, processes. The last thing in the 4-step planning process is to understand and agree on the processes that you're going to use, not just to plan, but to execute the plan. Because the devil's in the details when it comes to the processes. Processes are very, very, very linear and very, very important, exceptional tools that you're going to need to use within your strategy to make anything happen. And if you don't have the right processes in place, if you don't understand the processes that you have in place, not only can't you use them and deploy them well, you can't maintain them. And you can't continue to do the things you need to do to make it all happen. So, when I first started discovering and writing and talking about planning, one of the first things I wanted to do was, and I do this all the time, as I go to the good book, I go to the areas in my life where I feel like there's a great amount of learning that happened way before I came on the scene or anybody else came on the scene. And so there's some synergy there between what we're doing and where we're going and how we're doing whatever we're doing. And I think that it's important that if those opportunities continue to grow, and if you're looking back in history and you're really looking for, where we come from, where we enter, and where we're going, you're going to get a good view of, what humans thought about things before, everybody had access to writing and everybody could read and everybody could transfer information back and forth. Where were the fundamental basics of what we think about today when it comes to planning? And so we go to the Bible and we learn the Bible has a lot to say about this thing. The Bible has a lot to say about what humans were thinking and doing when it comes to making plans. And so I'm going to share some of those lessons with you. I'm not going to talk about, where they come from in the Bible or anything like that, but I'm going to share those lessons, those big lessons with you. And then you can go back and look at the document yourself and figure out where they came from and how they all come together. But lesson number 1, this is very important. Your plans, when you put them together, should reflect rigor and consciousness. You can't just plan, you can't just shoot from the hip, throw some stuff together and say go. That's not going to be good enough to not just function well, but it's not going to be pleasing to anyone who's involved with it. It's not going to be pleasing to the universe. You're not going to get your team to coalesce and grow together and share together and create the best. So spend the time, take the time, put the effort into rigorous conscious planning. Okay. Next thing you want to think about is you want to make sure everything is in good order from the beginning. Now, what do I mean by that? It's important that you do things in the proper time, in the proper perspective, and you do them well. Because, in the planning process, if you try to do things that are out of sync with how the universe works, with the universal principles, with the things that we know are true about how humans behave and what they're trying to do, then you're going to find yourself, failing fairly quickly, and you're going to find holes in your processes fairly quickly. If you try to plan with a team that doesn't like each other, that doesn't care about each other, that doesn't haven't really worked out their team dynamics and so on and so forth, and they're just doing it because there's a job title to do it, or they're doing it just because they accepted a role to do something and so on and so forth, then that's not going to be good enough to really, really move people forward. You're going to have to do things in order, right? So you have to get people to understand each other, like each other, work together with each other, and then you can put together some plans that make some sense. You should have done that before you even invited them on the team. But if you haven't done it yet, if you haven't made sure that happened as a leader, you got to make sure that people are on one accord before you begin the planning process, and they've agreed on the shared values, and they've agreed on what is important to all of them, and everybody has been heard and understood and listened to and feel like they belong to something. Because if you begin the process before you begin that, things are out of order, and then you're going to find that people question each other, and they challenge each other, and they make it difficult. Sometimes they'll just rebel and not even, they'll participate, but they won't be fully engaged when they participate, so they won't give their best. And that's very, very important to do. Every plan requires resources. There is no plan that you're going to put together that doesn't talk to or express the resources that you're going to use, the tools that you're going to use, the time, the talent, the treasure. All of that stuff has to come together, and you need to be cognizant of what that is. As a leader, as a person, a participant, as a member of the team, everybody needs to know, what do we got in the tool shed? What is it? How long? What's the maintenance on it? How are we going to use whatever we're going to use to move this thing forward, this idea, this concept, this goal, the objective, whatever we're trying to do, whatever we're trying to plan to accomplish? How are we going to do it? What do we have available? What finances do we have available, and how do we access them? If we need to go out and buy some stuff, where do we go? And how do we get our money back? Or how do we put in the slips that we need to requisition slips? Or how do we get it paid for so that it's already taken care of? So you have all these things you have to think about when it comes to creating a plan. If you don't have the resources available, it's going to be clear that you're not going to get to your goal. If people aren't willing to make the right investments, then it's going to be clear that you just don't have what it takes to do the job. You don't have what it takes to reach the accomplishment, to reach for whatever you're trying to reach for. Now, also understand that there are universal principles. There are principles that existed for human beings far beyond any of us in our existence today. Those principles have already been there. Things like, don't lie, cheat, steal. Clearly, these are things that are alternative to working together, and these are things that make it difficult to collaborate. And if you don't understand the universal principles that make things happen, that help people go, you need to do that. You need to straighten those out. In fact, you need to straighten them out and codify them in your plan as your touchstone, as your ethical mandate, that you will not violate these ideas, these principles that you're going to hold true, that you're going to hold dear to, that you're going to make sure are there. You think about, I like to think about our preamble to the Constitution of the United States, when they say, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with these inalienable rights. Right? And that's the rights of liberty, happiness, something in the pursuit of happiness, right? So think about all those things. They're laying that out up front. They're saying, here are the things that we are organizing to protect these ideas, these concepts, these values, these principles that we hold dear, right? And when you do that, there's less argument about why we're doing what we're doing. There's less argument. There's less stress associated to who we are, what we mean when we say this, and what is that. We don't have to get all caught up in the semantics about it, because we've already worked out the details of the values that undergird everything we're doing, the principles that undergird everything we're doing. The last thing I want to share from you from the Bible is this is true. There's a way to do everything when it comes to planning. There's a way. And if you seek that way, you're going to find it. But you do have to seek it. It's not going to smack you in the face. And it's not something that even if you go to school to learn, if you go to MBA school, you go to strategic planning school, you take some courses on Coursera, whatever you do to get this, if you do not seek the knowledge, then you won't retain it well, and you won't be able to use it well, and it won't go from knowledge to wisdom, right? Because you won't be able to have the discernment needed to know when to apply this and when not to apply this, and how it might matter in a certain type of social or organizational setting. Right? This is very, very important, because a lot of people are tactical specialists, which we'll get into next week. But some people are just very, very technical or tactical specialists, and they don't have a clue as to when and how those tactics should be applied, because they apply them all the time. And they think, okay, this is my job. I'm the specialist in this area, and I'm a tactician. And so therefore, I'm going to apply this particular process to everything I do. And it doesn't work, because it's not always, the timing is not always right. You don't always have the resources needed to back up this full process. I love my project planners out there, my project management people out there. We learn all of these different types of things that you can do in a project manager process and a project management schedule and all these different things. But the reality is, every project doesn't need all that stuff, to move us forward. In fact, if people are very, very steeped in that you're working with, are already steeped in project management methodology in its totality, right? Then you might be, preaching to the choir, so to speak. You might be putting more effort and energy into something just to say you put the effort and energy into something, but it's not going to matter in the long run, because the boxes are already been checked off that you're trying to check off, but you insist on checking off the boxes. That doesn't make any sense. You have to read your audience. You have to know who you're talking to, know what they bring to the table, know what talent and skills they bring to the table, so that when you plan, you can be effective and you don't bore people, or you don't have people thinking, oh my God, we got to go through this rigorous, arduous process just because there becomes no reason for it when everybody's already on board and everybody already understands it and they're thoroughly connected to it, and that's all that matters. Okay, I did some research, and this kind of how I updated this particular training program, and in the literature, we learned a lot about what's going on with the brain and the mind today when it comes to planning. And so let's think about this. There's an article I read from called The Neuroscience of Planning and Navigating Your Daily Life. And in that article, and I put a link in the training, in that article, it talks about literally, how your brain works when you do your everyday planning. When you do this well every day, what happens is you engage your brain correctly, and you reduce and dramatically reduce your stress. And I love one of the things they brought out in the article. There's a Dr. Seuss book that they talk about, and in the Dr. Seuss book, it just seems like it's cute the way they talk about how, if you're going to succeed, then you first have to put the effort forward to have your correct your thoughts and align your efforts to your thoughts, and then you will succeed indeed. And I remember that from reading that when I was a child, and it was great to have a throwback in that document. But go ahead and check that out. You understand that, when you do this right, when you plan appropriately, your prefrontal cortex and your hippocampus are all working together. That's parts of your brain. They're working together in tandem to help you deal with everything you have to deal with. And in the planning process, you're actually making your brain engage in the activities that you're trying to do before you're doing it. So you're visualizing yourself doing the thing that you're trying to do before you do it. And that's starting to build synapses in the brains that come together and make it easier for you actually to function in that thing, that whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, whatever it is you're trying to plan, whatever you're trying to do, makes it so much easier when you plan it. But when you just jump into the great unknown, then it's a shock to your brain. It's a shock to your system. Your whole nervous system gets compromised, especially when an obstacle appears that you feel like might be a challenge, or an obstacle that you might actually not have a clue about how to deal with. All of a sudden now fear catches up to you. All of a sudden now you're going to fight or flight. All of a sudden now you can't think straight, and the thing you needed the most in order to negotiate the obstacle, which is your brain, you no longer have. Now I want you to think about this happening with a group, a team that you just said, we're going. We're going into the great abyss and we don't know what's going to happen. And your team went, all right, if you want to go. Now you got everybody panicking. You got everybody in fear. You got everybody who's like, oh my God, what have we gotten ourselves into? We don't know what's going on. This is not going to work, and that's exactly what happens when leaders and don't take the time to work with their teams, to plan through what they're going to plan through, to practice, to rehearse, to make sure they have a good basic understanding of what they can expect. And they've reasonably rehearsed it so that, when it happens, whenever happens, when the obstacles happen, when the challenges happen, whenever happens, you're already ready for it. And then you're already developing an expertise even before you engage in the real opportunity. So that's what you're doing when you plan. You're getting your brain organized. You're getting yourself ready emotionally and to do the physical thing that you have to do. And by doing that well, then you're reducing your stress and your anxiety of the new, because that takes up a lot of energy in the brain. And it goes into that article, goes into all that. There's another article we talked about executive function and how to plan your day with your brain in mind. This is critically important, guys. If you're not thinking about when you think about your health and you're only thinking about your physical health, you're not thinking about the health of your nervous system. You're not thinking about the health of your spiritual systems. You're not thinking about the health of your relationships. Then you're not really thinking about your whole health. And I think that part of us, you're understanding how your executive functioning works in your brain and understanding how to heal and to support your parasympathetic nervous system. And I provided some links into the stuff that, I have problems with pronouncing, but I know what it is. If you can increase the strength and the resilience of your parasympathetic nervous system, then it's going to be much easier for you to move through your life, to move through your day, to be more resilient, to take the punches when they come, and to not get knocked down whenever something difficult happens, say COVID-19. You will find it easier to pivot if you take the time to strengthen your parasympathetic nervous system. One of the techniques that you may have learned and thought through in the past is taking deep breaths. Just learning throughout your day that as stress occurs, identifying it for what it is, and taking some deep breaths in a way that get your nervous system reset and create opportunities for your brain and everything to work better. And you can do better in teams. I would always even suggest that when you're working with a team, when you're working intensely together, take regular breaks to get up, stretch, think about something else other than what you were currently doing and working on and all that kind of stuff. Walk around the room, talk about your weekend, whatever it was that's different than what you're working on, and take some deep breaths and maybe get some water or whatever you need to do, and then come back to it. Another technique I would teach you is called cooling breaths. Cooling breaths are when you literally purse your lips like you're about to whistle, but instead of blowing out, you bring the air in. And you will find that as you bring air in and you deep breathe, as you bring the air in, what happens is you cool your nervous system. And you'll find that the air that you're bringing in, it feels cool in the back of your mouth. It feels cool in the back of and as it goes down through your lungs and so on and so forth, you feel a coolness that comes along with that. And that calms down your parasympathetic nervous system. That gets you reset, that gets you away. And just do that for 5 or 6 cycles. And you'll find that you feel much better, you feel more calmer, and you feel more energetic with everything that you're doing. Okay, the last thing we want to talk about when it comes to dealing with the nervous system is try to do everything you can to automate the small decisions in your life. And, there's some wonderful examples that were pulled out in some of the articles that I read in preparation for this talk, and some of the things that we're going to be training to in the document is in the training manual, I should say. And one of those things are example that President Obama might have, said, I'm going to choose to only have 2 colors of shirts. It's going to be gray or blue. Therefore, he never has to worry about what color his shirt's going to be. Never has to think about it. Never has to spend any of his brain energy worried about that. The colors of suits are going to be blue, black, or gray. And so then you don't have to think about it. It's on like, it's a uniform. One of the things I love about the military is that, they take that off the table. You're going to come to work, you're wearing a uniform, that's what you're wearing. And there's no question about, whose uniform was more creative than other, because there's no opportunity for you to put any brain space into that thing, because all you got to do is wear the uniform and wear it right? Wear it properly, I should say. And if you do that, that's less time, you got other things to worry about, other things to work on, and you don't have to spend any time worrying about what it is you're going to wear and how you're going to differentiate yourself from somebody else or whatever that is. Because no, it's a collective thing. You're working together. You're finding out ways. You created the uniform that creates the uniformity, that creates the unanimity, that creates the unity. Well, I never said that before, but that's pretty good. So it's very, very important when you think about it, when you're working in teams, is to try to minimize all those individual decisions that create basically distraction from the mission, from the goal, from what it is that you're going to try to plan around to do. And so you want to make sure that you're in the planning process, always minimize distractions, minimize anything that's going to take away from your focus, away from what it is that you're doing. If it comes to simple things that you got to do regularly, just automate that thing and forget about it. Do it once a week and set it up for the entire week. If it's breakfast, lunch, whatever that is, it doesn't matter that it's the same. And I understand that variety is the spice in life, but we're not talking about spice in life. We're talking about getting stuff done and making sure that you have the space to get things done. Now, of course, you want to every once in a while change things up and do something exciting or interesting, but not every day, not every moment of every day. Because if you're looking for, something new every minute of every day, then I think you're going to have a hard time becoming something that is recognized as an expert, something that is recognized as a creating meaningful contribution, because you're going to be flighty. That's the definition of flighty, right? You're going to be butterfly, moving all over the place. So when it comes to execution, we've already talked about, the general 4 concepts of high-powered teams, and we've already talked about some of the structural things that we've always known. Human beings have always known about planning, what we need to do to make that happen. And we talked a little bit about what the current literature says about how we as individuals should plan. And literally, when you think about all the things I just shared with you from the individual perspective, they can be boiled up to the group and to the team, small teams, right? So everything that affects us at a local individual level surely affects us at a small group level as well. And it can ruin or make or break a team. So you have to think about each individual and how their brain all comes together and all that functions around the planning process. So your planning process should do a couple things for you. It should inspire belief. If you find that your planning process does not inspire belief, you got a big problem, because as you go through the process, it should be easier and easier for the individuals that you are on your team find ways to collect their talents, their skills, and their resources and throw them all in. Be willing to throw everything they've got into the planning process. They'll be more and more committed to a good plan. And you'll find that ability to share and to give kind of gives more to your team character, right? Your team will grow in a bigger and better way. And once you've started to get that plan together, you also got to make sure that you've also planned in the plan how to act on the objective or at the point of execution or whatever that starting point is, and when you're going to get started, when you're going to get underway. A lot of people make plans, but they don't make plans to get started. To actually do the work, to actually make the thing happen. They have plans on what they're going to do, what they're possibly going to do, what they might do later on, and what they're planning on doing, but they don't have a plan to actually do it. So you have to plan, not just planning what you're doing, but planning implementation of that plan and making sure that you have everything and resources that you need to do to get that implementation going. You want to move towards, and I can't believe I'm telling you this, but it's true. You want to move towards group tunnel vision. You want that mission to be so mutually shared that the keywords that you use are the same, that the words that you use to describe what you're doing and where you're going are the same. The marketing statements and slogans that you embrace are the same. You want to be so excited about the process and agree on the process so well that you create mutual tunnel vision, and everybody gets involved with that. One of the best techniques I have come upon to help people really, really open up their creativity on their teams, is not brainstorming. Brainstorming sucks when it comes to this. You want to make sure you embrace what we call brain writing as a technique. You want to make sure that you bring your team together and you're doing things that allow them to each express themselves. Every single person must express themselves and must express their ideas and thoughts, and they must be considered and thought through and programmed in a way. And brain writing is a great way. I put a link to some brain writing techniques in the training manual that I suggest you go through and you look at. There's so many different things that you need to do to develop these skills, these planning skills you need to have. Get as much experience as you possibly can planning. It's just like, whatever goal you have, whatever thing you're trying to do, you're not the first person to do it. You're not the first person to experience it. You're not the first person to go through it. Find people who have succeeded in whatever thing you're trying to do and figure out how they did it. Go ask them. Go involve them. Invite them onto your advisory council, so that you learn from firsthand, what they did to make, what mistakes they made, and what things you might want to avoid in the future when it comes to planning to achieve whatever you're trying to achieve. Take your time to get a total understanding of the environment that you're in, so that you know exactly what's going on and you understand the rules that are associated with the situation and the environment that you find yourself in. If you're trying to plan and you don't understand what's going on around you, you're trying to get something done, and you're gonna get stuck again. And you have to make sure that you really have a good clue about those things. They can be informed to you by a lot of different things. When you think about, what makes you, it's the roles that you play, and it's the people that you affect in those roles. And the people who know most about how you're affecting them are the people who are experiencing how you affect them in those roles. And so go ask them. Go say, I know you worked with me on something before. What did you like about working with me? What was important about that? Go ask them the questions. What do you think I could do better? Always seek for feedback. Always look for ways to be better at whatever you do, because in making sure that you're doing that and committing to being better, committing to looking for ways to be better, and having people know that that's what you're trying to do. Everybody knows that they could play a part in your growth and development by just sharing what they're thinking about you to you. And you being open to that allows more of that to happen, which means your growth trajectory speeds up very quickly. You start to move in the areas that you didn't think you could move in, but somebody else reminded you, like, yeah, you could do that because I saw you do this, so therefore you could do that. And there's a direct link between these two things, so it doesn't make any sense for you to believe that you can't do it, because evidence of what I've seen and witnessed shows that you can. So let's get it done. What do we need to do to support you in this effort? What tools, what strategies, what resources, what people do we have to bring around you to make that happen? And when you get all that worked out, you're going to have a great plan. You have a plan that's so great that you're going to start it. You're going to finish it. You're going to implement it, because the plan itself is going to be so magical. I love that quote from the A-Team. Hannibal always says, I love it when a good plan comes together. You're going to be that person. You're going to be the person that creates this excellent plan that comes together well. Your team is going to be the team that just knows they're going to win before they start. That's a great situation to be in. That's an exciting situation to be in. Trust me, if you've ever been on a team that has planned such a winning strategy, and that they know that even if the slight chance is they don't win, they're going to be at the top of their game. They're going to deliver their best performance, and they know it. And it feels great. It feels great to be on that team. It feels great to be supported by the members of people on that team, the sub members, and everybody else that comes along with a team like that who has had such an excellent plan. Everybody wants to throw money at a team like that. Everybody wants to, get on board and be involved with their success. And they want to be a part of this new thing that's being developed, or the growth of this new thing that's being developed. Everybody wants to go with a winner. So, plan to win. That's our talk for today. We've been at this for a while, and I want to make sure that You got plenty of time. Definitely look at the document that we have here, the training manual we have here for you. There are all kinds of exercises and things that you can do that are all embedded in the text itself, and there are links and everything that you can get to from all the research that we've done and updated it with. And I hope you have a great time. As anything else, if there's any questions that you have, or any ideas that you have, anything you want to share, do me a favor and definitely talk to me about it. Put it up in the chat, and or hit me in the DMs, or get in contact with me. Let me figure out if I can. I think I can do this. Check it out. I can get the little banner going. This is all of my contact information. My text messages here. You can send me use the hashtag 9step guru whenever you're playing around with Coach Powell. And definitely, whatever you're doing, subscribe, like the show, share it with others. I need you to do that. I need you to do that. I need you not to keep me a secret. I need you to keep this thing going, and hopefully we'll be able to affect change and create opportunities for small businesses everywhere all the time. I love you. Thank you so very much for your attention, and I'm hoping that you come back. We'll see you again next week, 3 o'clock. Coffee Tea, you and me. We're talking about what you need to do to execute. And again, I got the training manual for you that is going to be phenomenal. Just pay attention. Love you guys. Bye-bye.